Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to episode, I don't even know. I think it's 22. But our boy, Andrew Peters, is gloating today because he's wearing his Max Verstappen Red Bull sweater, I guess.
Zip-up hoodie made by Puma. And I bought it at the Bay in Canada. How about that?
It looks fantastic. I really like it on you.
Well, thank you very much. I feel like I'm a European hockey player. But, Craig, you're about to rip me for something, so go ahead.
Well, no.
Thanks for joining us today, Elliotte, by the way. Appreciate it. Under
good to be here.
Circumstances.
Yeah, I didn't even know Elliotte was here. We were just in that conversation. But listen, Elliotte was starting to talk about the F1. And listen, please do me a favor, gentlemen. I think something crazy happened at the end. I haven't watched it. I'm a F1 guy, but I watch it on Netflix. I have not
Drive to Survive.
Yeah. I have not seen season 3, so please do not ruin it for me and tell me, because right now I am so intrigued with what Elliotte said that the way it ended, and I don't know how it ended, is wrong, I guess. Is that what you're trying to say?
It's not that it's wrong. I don't, to be honest, Craig, I don't know enough about the rules to know that it's wrong, but I know that it's absolutely abnormal, and a lot of people were freaked out about it. People who know F1 better than me say that should not have happened. So I'm trying to imagine what it would be like if a Stanley, well, the closest thing, and boy, I hate to bring this up, is probably 99 Sabres Stars.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thanks, Elliotte.
So sorry. I forgot where I was for a second.
Elliotte, I am in this is the first year of Formula One racing that I ever watched. Okay. I got into it through my brother. A lot of people had talked about the Drive to Survive.
Yeah. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, it is phenomenal. My brother calls me about a year and a half ago, and he's like, Andrew, have you seen this? And I said, no, a lot of people have talked about it, but the people that have told me to watch it, we don't have anything in common. So if they tell me to do something or I should do something, I'm like, I kind of look and I'm like, we're not, I don't know. We don't have anything in common. So I don't know if I'm going to like it. You know what I mean? Then my brother calls me and tells me. And so I'm like, oh, okay, I'll check it out. So I check it out. And first season, I fall in love with Max Verstappen. Right. So anyway,
well, he's a love him or hate him guy. Cause I think he totally irritated me. So I don't know why. So you're all of a sudden this Max Verstappen lover of Red Bull, and I think that the guy's an arrogant, SOB, very competitive, which I like to see, but he's got some arrogance to him. Oh my God, it's ridiculous.
Well, Craig, like
I like the underdogs. I like the super underdogs for these teams that just don't quite have the money. They just don't quite have the backing, but they're insanely competitive, and they're going to do anything they possibly can to try and win.
Actually, that's one of the biggest issues I've had with F1 is that it's too much about that. The underdogs never win. Like periodically you'll get a stunning team that wins in baseball or the Super Bowl or the NHL, but you don't get that very much in F1, if at all. But Craig, who's the Verstappen that you played with in the NHL?
JR.
Roenick.
Yeah, 100%. You either loved him or you hated him. He had this confident demeanor about him. He was highly competitive. Whether it didn't matter whether you were playing hockey, whether you're in practice or playing a game of poker on the plane, he wanted to win. And that would probably be the one guy that pops out.
What about you, Andrew? Who was your Verstappen?
Craig. Come on, Craig. You had to see that one coming. It's amazing that in the last 15 seconds I can forget an unbelievable question that I had. But either way, it doesn't matter. So I'm watching the race yesterday, and I've just grown to love Verstappen. And this is the first year that I've ever watched Formula One, Elliotte. And I don't want to make this whole segment about Formula One, but I never had a team that I cheered for growing up. I don't know why. I followed the Sabres because they were close, and I only ever went to Sabre games as a kid. I didn't like the Leafs because The guys down the street that we used to play ball hockey with always showed up with a Iafrate jersey or Borshevsky or whatever. So so I never had a team that I really rooted for unless I was on the team, right? So I swear yesterday, it was over. I watched the whole race pre-recorded, and I was skipping through after Hamilton took off at the start, and I was just like, it's over. It's over.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was a controversy on like the second turn,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm like, okay, that's like Hamilton should have been screwed for that, but he didn't, and he was so far ahead. Then the crash with about 5 or 6 or 7 laps to go brought the safety car out, and they could not end what I've been told is the greatest season in Formula One by a safety car. So Riv, what they did was they had all the cars that were lapped past the safety car. So there were 2 cars left for a 1-lap sprint, and it was Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
And I swear to you, when that safety car went off, I stood up and I was standing there, and I was literally yelling at the top of my lungs. I was like, come on, Max, drive. I was losing my marbles because I wanted him to win so badly. And all I could think about was you, Riv, because you hate him. And I'm just thinking like, oh, when he won and then all the controversy, but it's just, I don't know. I just love the guy. I love Christian Horner from Red Bull. I love Christian Horner. And well, he's married to a Spice Girl. And that was it. That's it.
Which Spice Girl? I have to decide how much
Ginger.
I like this.
Ginger Spice.
No problem with
Ginger
that.
wasn't my favorite Spice Girl, though. Ginger was not my favorite Spice Girl.
Who was your favorite Spice Girl?
Can you name the Spice Girls, Elliotte?
Sadly, I can because I have nieces and nephews.
Okay.
Ginger.
Yep.
Baby.
I forgot about Baby. I would have missed that one.
Sporty and Scary.
Yep.
And
Which
Posh.
one's Scary?
And Posh.
Oh,
Scary was
Posh
my
is
favorite.
Beckham's,
Posh is Victoria Beckham.
Okay, Posh. Didn't like her. Wasn't a big fan of Scary. Was not a fan of Sporty.
So you're down to Ginger or Baby.
I'm not. For me, I'm going to pass on the Baby. I'm going Ginger.
Oh, then you should be a Red Bull fan.
Good for her. Yeah.
Christian Horner married her. Anyway, that's my Red Bull story. My Formula One. My guy won, and here we are. So Elliotte, speaking of winning, we're not going to be going to the Olympics, are we?
I don't want to say no. I think they'll take as long as they possibly can. It's challenging like that. Basically what they were told about for the protocols, the quarantine was about as bad news as they ever could have gotten. And now I think what they have to figure out is
what are the protocols?
So basically what it was told is if you have a positive test, you could face a 3 to 5 week quarantine. Nobody will be allowed to leave without the approval of Chinese authorities. And, the thing they did say is if you want to, if you test positive and you're symptomatic, then you can't get out of quarantine until you have no more symptoms and you have 2 negative tests in the span of 24 hours or 24 hours apart. And if you're asymptomatic, again, it's 2 negative tests at least 24 hours apart. So it's not easy. It could be 3 to 5 weeks. And it's, like as one agent said to me, guys, it's the worst news the players could have gotten. And now there's a conference call today for the players. There's another one on Wednesday. They'll ask the questions they need to ask. They'll get the information they need, and they'll make their decisions.
Do you think it's interesting though, how, the league goes into meet about it? And this is not a criticism of the league. It's a hard decision. Okay. Yeah. This is a really difficult decision, but I think we all can imagine or know that I don't think the league really wants players going to the Olympics, but do you think it was interesting how they decided to leave it up to them?
Well, no, I'm not surprised at it because Andrew, last time the league made the decision in 2018, the league made the call. And I remember, and I remember this because we reported it was a Saturday night. I think it was the last Saturday of the regular season right before the playoffs. And we reported the decision was coming very soon. And the players were caught totally by surprise because they weren't expecting it. So they knew at that moment that they weren't going, that the league was going to say no. And players were upset. And I think this time the league said, okay, we pulled the plug last time. And the players said in the CBA negotiations, the Olympics were very important to them. It was, their most important non-financial issue. And the league said, look, we made them a promise. And I heard at the Board of Governors, the commissioner told the owners and the governors, you guys should be expecting we're going. And there's only two ways we're not going. Number one, we have to cancel so many games that it's obvious we can't, and 3 more got canceled today. Or the players look at the quarantines and say they don't like it. And it turned out that Friday night, the Players Association was given the new quarantines. So I think that's kind of where we are. I think the other questions too that I'm trying to figure out, guys, is what happens if, for argument's sake, Russia and the US, 95% of players vote to go, and Canada and Sweden, for argument's sake, I'm just picking countries out of a hat, say we don't want to go. So what happens then?
Well, is it a country by country basis, like a citizenship basis thing, or is it going to be an NHL player
team,
decision thing,
or an NHL team decision?
I think it's going to be.
Do you think that Alex?
I think it's going to be up to the Olympians.
But do you think that Alex Ovechkin, who's extremely important to the Washington Capitals, is not going to have behind closed doors communication with the owner of that team, who seem to have a very, very strong relationship?
I'm sure they will have communication with each other. I have no doubt about it. But and look, I don't like talking for anybody, but I'll just play devil's advocate here, Craig. This could be Alexander Ovechkin's last chance at the Olympics. He's never won a gold medal. Russia won a gold medal last time. He wasn't on the team because the NHLers weren't there. You don't think, Craig, he's sitting there, I want to go?
I do believe that he wants to go. Even if it would grossly affect Washington Capitals and where they would fit in the standings, I think Alex Ovechkin looks at this and say, I've already won a Stanley Cup. I've won multiple scoring titles. I would like to try and win an Olympic gold medal, and this is possibly going to be his last opportunity. And I think that he's going to want to go. But what does that mean for Kuznetsov? What does that mean for Orlov? What does that mean for those players?
It's a great question. I think look, they're going to wait as long as they possibly can to make this decision, Craig. They've still got time. And I think we're going to have to work to figure this out.
January 10th, the deadline, right?
January 10th is the non-financial penalty deadline. Okay. After January 10th, and I think it's the transportation costs. I think they have to pay those.
This is not an indictment on Ovechkin's character, but if he's been so adamant over the years about Olympics, I feel like he is a guy that maybe not values a gold medal more than a Stanley Cup, but definitely on the same playing field.
I don't, watching that guy when he won the Stanley Cup, he does not value the gold medal more than the Stanley Cup, but he values them both incredibly well.
That's what I mean. Yeah. So,
and you know what, Andrew, to be an Olympian for these guys, it's a huge deal. You are the best of the best.
Very much so.
But what's the difference between an Olympic gold or a World Cup gold? It's the same players playing. It's just not the same stage.
It's the Olympics.
It's the Olympics. It's the Olympics. I can still remember when the Czechoslovakia, and I can't remember what year it was. I think it was 98, if I'm not mistaken.
When they won the first one, Czech Republic?
Yes.
Yeah,
and I remember
it wasn't Czechoslovakia anymore.
Czech Republic or whatever it is.
There you go.
I remember Martin Rosinsky was on that team, and right after they had won, they flew to the Czech Republic, and the entire country was waiting for them. And it was something.
Oh, yeah.
It was something that I've never seen before. I mean, that entire country was celebrating for many, many days. And I remember Martin Rosinsky flew back to Montreal to come back to the team, and we were at his apartment. I can still remember this like it was yesterday. Our entire team was in his apartment waiting for him when he got home. And I am not kidding you. It was the last thing in the world is what he wanted people in his apartment waiting for him, because he looked like he had been around the ringer. Like he looked so exhausted and so drained. I can't even imagine, the partying that they were doing and stuff. But I just go back to, Alex Ovechkin. I can't imagine what would happen if Alex Ovechkin won an Olympic gold medal. I mean, that country would explode.
I think his mother's a gold medalist, isn't she? Didn't she win a basketball?
Yeah, basketball.
Basketball.
Yes, basketball.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Was his father an Olympian as well? Was he a wrestler or something?
Not soccer. Was he a
Uh,
soccer?
I don't know that his father was an Olympian. I know his mother absolutely was.
His dad was a professional at some sport, though, if I'm not mistaken. I think he might have been a soccer player. You have to look that up. But
have you spoken to any players about this? Any Olympians or potential?
Oh, yeah.
And what's the thought process?
I think, what you do, Andrew, is you hope against hope that somehow something comes up that makes it better. Like, again, you cannot underestimate how badly these guys want to be Olympians. They really do. I think there are other players besides, Leonard has already announced he's not going to go. I think there are other players who are on the same wavelength as he is, that they're not crazy about it, and they may pull out for that particular reason. I think it's really mixed, and I do think, like, I'll tell you, I had one agent say to me that he had a GM who is normally very supportive of the Olympics say to him that he thought it was really wrong under these circumstances for the players to go. And this is a GM who he told me is very supportive of the Olympics, has been involved with them in the past, recognizes how much they mean. I think he said it was like selfish for the players to go if they could be away from their NHL teams for 3 to 5 weeks after it's over. But, we'll see where this goes.
Well, I hate to say I completely agree, but I completely agree with that. I mean, I'm not a fan of the Olympics to begin with for the players to go. And the simple reason is safety. Like, look, the John Tavares incident, I can't remember what year that was, Elliotte, when he was over there and he blew his knee out. We talked about this last week with Brian Giunta as well. The Islanders were on the cusp of, like, in a playoff spot, right around the time the Olympics, and then John Tavares goes over there, blows his knee out, and their season's over and they miss the playoffs. That there is your prime example as to why you can't let your stars go and play in this tournament. Now, if it's a World Cup of Hockey where they're getting the TV revenue and they're getting the ticket revenue and there's HRR involved, then that's a business decision. But the NHL only stands to lose if their stars get hurt.
Yes, I mean, I think that's true. Or they get sick and they can't come back, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I just think about all the other players that are on the team. I understand that you have, you're a special player when you're going to go to the Olympics for your country. It's really, truly an honor. But, your job is an important one. And you're not just representing yourself, you're representing an organization and the other players that you're playing with. And for you, I'm not saying selfishly go over there knowing that, you could be over there for upwards of 5 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane.
How concerned is the league about the COVID situation going on here? Forget about
concern. Well, I mean, the good news is that with a lot of these variants now, if you're vaccinated or you're boosted, whichever you prefer, especially even with the new Omicron that's coming around, it shows that if you're properly protected, it's not serious, right? In most cases. And, most athletes are pretty healthy, so you would think that the odds are very safe. However, it does lead to canceling games and it does lead to disruptions. Like this Calgary situation, all of a sudden they had 7 positive tests at once, right? So it's really, it's a challenge because in hockey, the rink atmosphere, the air doesn't flow as well, which makes it even more likely that there could be exposures there. It's a problem. Like, I think they feel that generally everybody's going to be healthy, which we hope, but it's no question it's disruptive.
Are all these players vaccinated, do we think?
Only one isn't.
Only one player in the league right now.
Is not. It's Tyler Bertuzzi from Detroit.
I know, but what I mean is, do we have any other Evander Kanes going on with the fake vaccination cards?
No, I asked about that when the reports first came up that Kane was under investigation, and I was told there were no other active investigations at that time. But if you've been following the Antonio Brown situation in the NFL, it's possible that it could happen and nobody would know about it, right? And the only reason Antonio Brown was caught was because he didn't pay his chef who blew the whistle. But so this is proof, Andrew and Craig and everybody out there, pay your chef.
Oh yeah, hey, Steve.
But as far as I know, there were no active investigations.
Yeah, I just wonder if the league should just shut down for 2 weeks, not go to the Olympics, get everybody, healthy and safe anyway, and then come back to play. Like, take the break anyway. Just not.
Well, I think that could happen in the sense that another thing that we learned at the Board of Governors, guys, was that there isn't going to be a lot of room to play games if they don't go to the Olympics. A lot of those teams have put stuff in their arenas. There's 8 games now that need to be made up, and there still needs to be dates for 6 of them. So we could see that, for example. That could happen. That's where you do your makeups. But generally, it doesn't sound like there's going to be a lot of games moved into that break. So even if the NHL doesn't go to the Olympics, sounds like a lot of players are going to have time off.
If there isn't an Olympics, there was talk about another World Cup. Can you see that coming back?
Well, one thing I asked about was, could they play a World Cup now with those players, or could they play the Olympic tournament in North America with these players? And I was told no. I do think there'll be another World Cup again in the future, guys, but as the league said, there's bigger priorities right now.
The league happened to, speaking of priorities, I don't know if it was an apology, but at least an acknowledgement of an officiating boo-boo on an offside in Buffalo.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't a Buffalo fandom question. It's just more of like I hate criticizing the league all the time.
Yeah.
But how come we just can't get this right? We have video review now. Like, why is it so difficult for us to get all this stuff straight?
Yeah, I know that was a really tough one. There's no question that was a really tough one. That was rough.
I mean,
for the Sabres.
The Sabres right now, the Sabres fans, the Buffalo people, I mean, they're just like, what the heck is going on?
Well, I know the Sabres were also upset about the Zegras Milano goal, but I don't think they had anything to stand on about that one. Like, that to me, I thought was a good goal. And so I think it was just they were frustrated about the whole
were they
league.
Just upset about leaving the guy in front of the net so he could tap it into the net?
They thought it was a high stick.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But,
it wasn't a high stick.
I agree. But
it was just a guy left all alone in front of the net. Like,
yes.
Just leave him there.
Excuse me one second. Let me just send a text message.
Oh, yeah?
If you can read it out, that would be great.
No.
I think I saw your phone when you flipped it over there. Steve Yzerman, eh?
Yeah, I got news for you. If you could list 50,000 people, he would be number 50,000 at the list of people who would be calling me. I like the one thing I wonder about that too is it was kind of fluky because the linesman who made the call, he wasn't looking at the guy who had the puck, right? So I think I look at that kind of specific play and I wonder if we're going to have to change the rules from possession in the offensive zone to just touching the puck in the offensive zone.
Didn't they change the rules?
Yeah,
didn't they tweak it?
That was for leg up.
Yeah, it's so confusing.
But the other thing too is like the one thing I would say is like I understand why Buffalo was upset. Like I do. I would have driven me crazy too. I totally understand it. I also got to wonder, like, somebody's got to tell Rasmus Dahlin, you're trying to tie the game in the last minute. You got to get out of the zone faster.
That was as fast.
What'd you think of the Zegras goal?
It was beautiful.
Do you like? Okay, so there's been a lot of criticism. There's been not a lot of criticism. There's been some criticism. I think everyone's heard John Tortorella's comments.
Here's my position on Tortorella. Okay, I don't like that in hockey, unpopular opinions get dumped on as much as they do. I really don't. I think it discourages people from thinking differently. And I'm at fault as this too, because I am a television broadcaster. I think sometimes the best studio show is Inside the NBA, and they don't care what anybody thinks about them. And they just say it, and people laugh like it's all a big joke, right? Like, and I love that. Like, people on Twitter laugh about what they say because it's so crazy. They don't care what anybody thinks, and it's clear that their bosses back them. As long as you don't go over the line, and those lines I think are pretty clearly defined, we're going to back you. And I think in hockey, we don't have that. I think a lot of people are afraid to speak out. I don't think I think in a lot of cases, commentators don't feel that they're backed by their bosses. And so like Tortorella comes out, and I think his opinion's wrong. Like, I disagree with his opinion on this goal, but what's the problem with having a different opinion?
Absolutely.
Like, what's the problem with having a different opinion? So what if he hates it? Who cares? It's his opinion.
Yeah. But that's what you want to hear. I like what he said. I don't agree with what he said, but I like that he said it because he gave his opinion. Guess what? John Tortorella doesn't give a rat's ass what people think.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about all the noise that's going to happen after about his opinion. He's going to say it the way it is. That's how he feels. I love it. I disagree with it, but I would also add something to my opinion.
I mean, hey, that was –
hold on, Petey.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were done.
My opinion is I love this stuff. I love the creativity. These young players in today's game are doing things, and the way that they see the game is different than what it was played 15, 20, 30 years ago. Okay. And I like the creativity in the game. It's fun stuff. But I want the instigator penalty out. Someone needs to go and kill him after he's sitting there giggling on the bench like a little school kid in elementary school. I think it's disrespectful. I think it's disrespectful. And for me, like, great goal, kid. Nice job.
With you.
And let me tell you something. Don't disrespect our team.
Well, I'm going to disrespect you and cut you off.
Did they not win a game? I think it was the next night in overtime or in a shootout.
He scored the goal or whatever.
Skated right by the bench. Right by the opposing team's bench. If you go back and look at it, right by the bench, going, woo!
Well, Zegras did. Was it Zegras or Milano that did that?
I don't care.
Well, Zegras
Either one of them
scored a goal after or an overtime and threw the stick over the glass. I love this kid. I think this kid is great for hockey.
I agree.
And I watch the NBA now. My son loves basketball. I watch the NBA more than I watch hockey. And I can tell you that I love that they don't play defense till about 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And I love that they smile. I love that they have fun. I love that they're energetic. They're entertaining. You got LaMelo Ball firing up a shot, turning and looking at the fans and like giving them a high five while the ball's still in the air going right into the hoop. Like, I love this. I am so tired of the teeth grinding, kill you attitude in hockey where it has to be so serious. It is just the game. I knew how I had to play. That doesn't mean I needed to be told to get into a mindset of be serious. You don't think I'm serious about what I need to do when I go on the ice? I got about to get my head kicked in by some tough guy. You think if I'm joking half an hour before the game, that's how I prepare. Okay? Because that's how I prepare. That's my comfort with going into the game. Everyone prepares differently. I think the hockey mindset is old and it's dull and it needs to change soon.
I think you're friggin' crazy, man.
No,
but that's your opinion.
Craig,
you can go ahead and have that opinion.
The problem is
certain things that should
never. Let Elliotte finish here. Go ahead,
The
Elliotte.
next generation of fans thinks like Andrew. Like, they're out there. They're all on social media. There's no privacy, Craig. I like generally as a person, Craig, I'm with you. I like act like you've been there before, but like now I recognize that the next generation of fans, they're all out there. Like, what do these people all want to be? They all want to be influencers. They want to be TikTok stars, you know? And what's that? That is, here's me, and this is who I am, and I'm putting it out there. And if we don't adapt to that, the sport's going to be in big trouble.
Got a problem with that, Craig?
Yeah, because I think the sport's in big trouble now because of the way it's played a lot of the times. I think the excitement of this game 15 years ago to go to watch a game was 10 times more exciting.
Why? Fights?
Because, yes.
Guys hated each other. They swung sticks at each other?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but that's...
No question about it. There was body checking. There was physicality. We still had insane stars back in the day with the Stevie Eisman, Joe Sakic, Mary Lemieux, Wayne Gretzky. You go back to like all of those players, those elite players. We had them. Oh my God, did we have them? We had them. Personality. I loved the game. It was a different game. Now we have our third and fourth line guys that are no different than your first and second line guys.
Well, that's, you know what, Craig, like I think that's one of the things that I like. You look at last week. What was one of the big storylines of last week? Trouba, right?
Just about to bring this up.
And I thought all those hits, they were tough, but they were clean. Like I don't think he fouled Kara, who I hope is okay. I don't think he fouled McKinnon. Like Reese Johnson was hurt from a big check from Jake Muzzin. I don't think Muzzin fouled him.
Yeah. And it's just
last night,
Ryan Lomberg.
Yeah. McDonald was, and again, I don't think he fouled him, but but the thing is, like, why are those a big deal? Because we don't have that anymore. When you guys played, there were 15 of those hits a game. Now we don't have that anymore. And one of the reasons is that people don't want to watch injuries anymore. They don't want to watch the stretcher. They don't want to see guys get hurt.
Thank you.
I think the crowd, and I do think that's led to a loss of passion. I think there's too many regular season games that are no hitters. I think that takes the passion out of regular season playoffs.
It's like watching basketball.
Yeah, but here's my point.
It's like basketball is a snooze fest until the last 2 minutes of the game. Then you can wake up and you can actually watch the rest of the game.
Here's my point on that, Craig, is that if the passion from hitting is going to be taken out of the game because people don't want to see injuries, where's the passion? Hold on. Where's the passion going to come from? It's going to come from people like Trevor Zegras.
Okay.
Who's
saying that there's people that don't want to watch that? There's a lot.
I don't anymore. I don't anymore. And that's going to kill you.
And there's a tremendous amount of people that I talk to, all kinds, all ages, that think the game is boring as hell because there's no excitement.
I think at times it's a problem.
It's a huge problem because we have 4 lines of the same player.
That's why
back in the day when we played
of the world.
And listen, I'm not saying that I don't like Trevor Zegras or Sonny Milano and what they did. I think that's exactly, we want more of that. But I'm going to tell you this. I think the game's boring as hell right now because that can happen and that can go on social media and these young kids get to see it. But these young kids don't know what the game was 15 years ago because some of them weren't even born.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know how great and how electric stadiums were when you had 2 teams that, remember back watching Colorado Avalanche play the Detroit Red Wings and the hatred that these 2 teams had for each other, or the Montreal Canadiens get Quebec Nordiques, or the Battle of Alberta. It goes on and on and on. Now there's nothing like that. And I feel bad for this generation because all we're talking about right now is a guy doing the what is it called? The Michigan flipping the puck up in the air and a guy banging it out of the air. And that's like the greatest goal we've seen in 10 years. You don't know what a great game is because this generation's never seen a great game. because it's all
I
gone.
don't know. I don't know if I'd go that far.
Unless you have certain players like Connor McDavid. What did you say the other night? You're like, every time Connor McDavid is on the ice, he has a scoring chance. He creates a scoring chance. That's how good he is. But guess what? There's only one Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
There's only one guy like that in this league.
The one thing I'll say about this, Elliotte, I'm directing this at you because I know Craig is going to chop my head off when I say this. I'm at a point with hockey because I don't want to see I want those hits out of the game. I love the Lomberg hit. I couldn't believe it. I'm sorry the guy got hurt. I love the hit on Kara because it's that you don't see it anymore. Hitting like that is an art. Timing, power, all of it. It's an art, but
Predatorial.
But it's also there's a price. There's a price to be paid here. You know, we talk about CTE, we talk about injuries. Like, why are we not just telling these guys to go and play the puck? Like, has the game not evolved? Has science not evolved? Have injuries not evolved? Are there not enough examples of players with brain injuries, whether they have 1 concussion or 12 concussions, that we can say, look, like maybe we need to scale down or at least take away some of the padding so these guys aren't armored from head to toe? Like,
I think about the equipment issue all the time. I do. I think about the equipment issue all the time.
What do you think about?
Well, I think in a lot of I really agree that that's a big problem. I absolutely do. Now, the way people shoot the puck, I think that's probably the counter. But generally, I feel that, like Dave Elliotte, who you guys both know, he once said to me that if the players now played in the same equipment that we did, there'd be a lot less injuries.
Elliotte, I wore tiny shoulder pads, primarily for fighting, space in my jersey, whatever. But I wore shoulder pads that I wore in Bantam. Okay, I wasn't allowed to wear them in the OHL because they gave us I had these Douglas shoulder pads that had this like air puff lining rib. I know you had the Easton ones, the Donzies.
Mine were Donzies. Yeah.
Donzies, the black and orange ones. I know them.
It's like being a gladiator.
It's like wearing football pads.
You could run through the wall. I swear to God. And the amazing thing is, my parents bought me those for Christmas one year when I was 14 years old. And I wore them all the way till pro hockey. And they took those football shoulder pads away from me once I reached pro hockey.
But guys, I have to go. I'm sorry. I got to go. I got to get ready for the press conference in Vancouver.
No problem.
No worries,
I'm going to tell my Steve Yzerman story, and I'll tell you about it next week.
Okay.
It's crazy, but enjoy.
I can't wait to hear it.
Thanks, Elliotte. Appreciate it, man.
My pleasure, guys. Always great to chat with you.
All right. Yeah, we'll see. Bye. All right. Elliotte had to go abruptly, but we knew that. We were pushing up against the clock with him, but we got a lot of good topics in there.
Let's hear your Stevie Y, Derek Roy story. I can't wait to hear this one.
So Royce was named to the World Championship team for Team Canada, and Steve.
What
Eisner,
year do you remember? 2008. You said.
While I'm telling the story, check this out. I think it was 2008. We had our year-end party at Tempo, downtown Buffalo. Royce left his phone at the table, and I think he was texting with Stevie Y or a call or whatever during the night. He left the table and left his phone. So drunk Andrew picks up the phone, and I call Steve Yzerman, and I leave him this voicemail. I can't even remember what I said, Riv. I just said a whole bunch of shit to him. It wasn't like rude or anything. It was just like nonsense, belligerent nonsense. So anyway, Royce comes back.
Drunk talk.
So Royce comes back to the table, and everyone's got kind of like a puzzled look on their face because I think they knew what I just did was extremely stupid. And he's like, "What happened?" And someone says, "Petey called Stevie Y and left a voicemail." And he looked at me. He looked at me, and I'm like, "Did you?" I was like, "Yeah." So he texts Steve Yzerman. He says, "Hey man, sorry."
Did you know at some point that you did something really wrong? Like,
Yeah.
or was
When
it just
I started
like
speaking after the beep? When I started speaking after the beep. So anyway, so he texts Steve Yzerman and he says, because I had that article years ago about taking androstenedione dye on or whatever, and it was legal at the time. But anyway, so that article came out, and so anyway, so he texts Steve Yzerman and he says, "Hey, Steve, I'm sorry we're at a year-end party. Andrew Peters thought it'd be funny to call and leave you a voicemail. Apologies won't happen again." He texts back and he said, "Hey, no problem, Royzy. I know how those things can go. Things can get a little crazy." He said, "Enjoy your night. Tell Andrew we were thinking about him for Team Canada, but we were worried about the drug testing." And after that, I mean, my heart sank, and I turned to Royzy, and all I said was, "He knows who I am." And that was it. That's the story. I mean, just belligerent Andrew. Think about this. That's why 10 years I've almost been sober, right?
But I'll tell you this, though, that is something that I think would have happened frequently in those situations. Cardinal, never leave your phone. You never leave your phone unattended.
I left my phone unattended, my BlackBerry, at the back of a bus. And when I was playing for New Jersey, we were busing from Jersey to Philadelphia. And I was going up and asking guys to buy Super Bowl squares. And then one of the guys said, "Hey, go up and ask Lou if he'll buy a square." And the guy's like, "No, we're not going out." And I go, I'll go ask Lou. Right. And I walked up and I was like, hey, Lou, you want to buy a square or whatever? I can't remember how much they were. Maybe, I don't know. NHL squares are like what, $100, Riv? $100 a square roughly?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
So there were like 4 or 5 squares left. I was like, "Lou, would you like to buy a square?" He's like, "Yeah, sure. How many you got left?" I said, 5. How much are they? I don't know, X amount. I think they were 100 a pop. He goes, "Yeah, I'll take all 5. I'll take the last 5. He bought the rest. I didn't think Lou was going to buy any, but he bought the rest of them. But while I was up there, I don't know who it was. I assume it was Brodeur, because he had a BlackBerry and knew how to operate a BlackBerry like nobody's business. Someone grabbed my BlackBerry, opened it, because I didn't have a lock on my phone, opened it, and changed everything to like Japanese. So I had no idea how to turn my phone back to English. So anyway, that's my leaving my phone unattended.
Goes around, comes around, right?
Oh yeah, that was like 2 years later. Yeah. So anyway, that's my phone unattended story. Been
great story.
Okay. Episode what?
22.
Yeah, good man. You got anything to share today?
Nope.
You were angry with Elliotte a little bit. Not with Elliotte. Just
no, I'm not angry. I'm not angry, but I mean, for listen, I mean, that's going to be a topic of discussion, and I could sit there and have these topics, but listen, I want to give my opinion. I like the game a certain way. I love the talent of these young men that are coming into today's game, but I believe that the NHL has sucked out the physicality, the aggression, the team camaraderie, how tight teams were back, 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. It's just a different game now. It's almost just kind of like we're watching an all-star game all the time. There's no physicality. There's nothing. I mean, there's no hatred between organizations. It's just like watching
process to get the game to this point, though.
And listen, the game's going in a nice direction. But unfortunately, they've taken out a major piece of the entertainment value, and we are entertainers, or I should say, I was an entertainer, not just a hockey player. I was there to entertain people that watched live and on TV, and was their concern for my well-being. Sometimes, yes, hockey can be a dangerous game at some points in time, but that's what I signed up for, and that's what I wanted to be a part of. And I enjoyed the game back then. And I'm not saying I don't enjoy the game now. I'm just saying that I would rather watch the highlights than to watch an actual game, because there is zero emotion to these games. Zero. And that's just my opinion.
I think the word that gets me is I think there's emotion, Riv. I think there's emotion, but I think the word that I would use other than emotion is I think that the game lacks intensity. It lacks that same kind of intensity. Maybe not so much the intensity that John Tortorella was describing, because that's extreme. That's like mid 90s and earlier. I feel like the way he's thinking, but
no, I don't think so. I think he's thinking mid 2000s. He's thinking in the 2000s. I mean,
you think that recently that his you think Tortorella's
here's where the
comments
game
about
went
getting
wrong.
his head Zegras would have gotten his head taken off for trying that is as early as
the mid 2000s. Zegras would not have any problem whatsoever with attempting to do what he did skill-wise, and the play that he made skill-wise with Sonny Milano in front of the net. It's the after the stuff. It's two little children sitting on the bench, giggling and laughing like they're elementary school kids. This is not going to fly back in the day. If you disrespect the team, someone's going to pay for it. And I liked that part of the game. I'm sorry. I am about respect. I respect that kid and the skill set that he has. I love what he's doing for the game. I'm a player. I look at this and say, I love this part of the game. I love this creativity, these young players coming in. But let me tell you something. Don't giggle and laugh and hoot and holler, and make these, these kids look like they're 10 years old, hugging each other on the bench.
Yeah.
You didn't see Stevie Y and Joe Sakic and all the super greats that we had in our game back in the day. Oh, they didn't do that. They did not do that.
Episode 22, always heated. That's a wrap on another episode of After the Whistle. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, After the Whistle, and at Craig Rivet 52, at the Instigator 76. And you can find us, as you already know, on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, and anywhere else where you can get your podcasts. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to spread the word.